especially since, seeing that everybody in his team is on steroids, which means including him. So
responsible for the performance-enhancing drugs that are being used by fighters that fought in his gym. Specifically, off the top of my head, you have Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez had popped for clenbuterol.
Canelo, man, I don't know if he's cheating.
What do you mean?
I feel like Canelo juices.
Boxing pros are exposing Canelo Alvarez for alleged steroid use ahead of his showdown with Terence Crawford, raising red flags about his rapid muscle growth and previous failed PD tests. David Benavidez has also stepped in, questioning why Canelo continues to avoid him if he's truly confident. He highlights that 5 members of Canelo's team have tested positive for banned substances, calling the entire camp dirty, including Canelo himself. These accusations are casting a long shadow over the upcoming fight.
Mexican boxing fights of all time, in my opinion. Yeah. So I feel like I'm 100% confident in myself. If Canelo was 100% confident in himself, I don't know why he wouldn't fight me, especially since, seeing that everybody in his team is on steroids, which means including him, so he never got off
You think he's on steroids?
Of course. How does 5?
You saw De La Hoya
How do 5 people out of your camp get tested positive for steroids?
Right.
You know what I mean? All those fucking dudes in that camp are dirty.
I seen Eddie Reynoso on my fight, so we made a joke. He said like he came to watch me the fight and shit. And then they're like, "Oh, you think he's?" In my head, I'm like, "What do you think Eddie Reynoso's thinking about? He's, are we gonna fight David Benavidez after seeing this fight?" In his head, Eddie Reynoso's like, "Fuck no, we not fighting him."
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, honestly, I don't blame Canelo. It's fucked up because there's a lot of money.
It's not even about the money. It's not about the money.
Yeah, but okay,
100 million, dude. You kidding me?
The first step when you're a fucking warrior, bro, the only thing you think about is gold. I've never thought about money. I've been smart. I'm negotiating my shit, but it's always a prize, bro. It's always, if I go out there and beat Canelo, bro, I'm a legend. You know what I mean? That I'm gonna live forever in boxing as a legend. That means way more to me than any type of.
Yeah, and I think that separates you too, David. And I admire that shit about you. I was like that at one point.
Yeah.
How much you give?
Yeah.
and not to just bypass him. Shout out to Morel as well.
Yeah, shout out to
Eddie Reynoso's gym, home to Canelo Alvarez, is under heavy scrutiny. Critics claim Reynoso may be personally supplying fighters in his camp with performance-enhancing drugs. This includes Canelo, who has already faced PED allegations twice in the past. With multiple fighters from the same gym testing positive, the boxing world is beginning to question whether Canelo's rapid bulking is natural or something more sinister as he prepares to face Crawford.
Addressed serious accusations about his gym. And the accusations are that people, or at least the implications are, that he is the one that is providing performance-enhancing drugs or is in some way responsible for the performance-enhancing drugs that are being used by fighters that fought in his gym. Specifically, off the top of my head, you have Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez had popped for clenbuterol 2 times. For Fahim Satur, I'll say that he did it 2 times, even though I think it was for the same fight. But Canelo Alvarez popped dirty for clenbuterol 2 times. You have Luis Nery, who had tested positive, but I think Luis Nery tested positive before he was with Eddie Reynoso. Then you have Ryan Garcia, who popped dirty after he left Eddie Reynoso and went over to Derek James. And then you have Oscar Valdez. Oscar Valdez popped dirty while he was with Eddie Reynoso, but at the time he was still allowed to fight. You also clearly see that you have an issue with the fight that's coming up with Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford, in that you have one guy that tested positive and you have another guy that looks like he's using in order to get up and continue to climb up weight classes. You know, at a certain point in time, and this is something that Rolly Romero has said, certain point in time, your body just doesn't do that. At a certain point in time, your body just doesn't do it. I'm 6'2", 200, and should weigh about 210. Closer to 250, but I should weigh about 210. I'm not gonna get up. If I was 210 now at 50 years old, I'm not, if by 55 years old, I'm not, the only way I'm going to get up to 260 of muscle is if I'm juicing.
Observers are pointing out that it's extremely difficult, almost unnatural, to gain large amounts of muscle in your 30s. Yet, Canelo's current physique looks significantly more massive than before. Combined with the PED history tied to Reynoso's camp, this transformation is fueling even more speculation. Fans and analysts are openly wondering, is this a natural evolution, or is it performance-enhancing drugs shaping yet another high-stakes fight?
If for a 30-year-old, right, you remember, your body grows, men's body can grow in height and length up until you're to the extreme in your 20s. By the time you're 20, your height and all that stuff is there, right? Your height and your length. In your mid-20s, you know, by the time you're 29, your musculature is pretty much there. It gets harder to gain and put on muscle after 30. So Canelo Alvarez is about to fight a guy that is going to put on 20 pounds of...
Joe Rogan's comments about Canelo Alvarez have ignited serious debate in the boxing world. As a respected commentator on combat sports and human performance, Rogan noted how unusual it is for someone in their 30s to bulk up so dramatically. He emphasized that natural muscle growth slows with age, and yet Canelo has seemingly reversed that science. Rogan didn't just hint. He flat out said this kind of transformation is nearly impossible without pharmaceutical help. And when someone with Joe Rogan's credibility raises those doubts, people listen.
Canelo, man, I don't know if he's cheating.
What do you mean?
I feel like Canelo juices. But I'm a Triple G fan, so I'm a say that ahead of time. I just like
There's
Triple
a
G.
lot of money on the line, and if I could get away with it, I would do it as well.
Some tainted beefs.
I think, well, he definitely got busted once for something, but it could have been from tainted beef. We don't know. But it also could be that, we should probably leave them alone and let them do whatever they want to do. Do you want to see Manny Pacquiao fight or not? Right? I want to see him juiced up, fighting at 45 years of age, coming in with a full six-pack, lighting people up.
As the Canelo versus Crawford fight draws near, talk of steroid use is getting louder. Many fans and analysts say they wouldn't be surprised if Canelo is using PEDs. The logic is simple. Canelo has access to the best nutritionists, recovery tools, and elite-level doctors money can buy. When you combine those resources with the pressure to stay at the top, the temptation to use banned substances becomes dangerously real. Critics argue that Canelo's camp creates the perfect environment to cheat without getting caught.
What up, everybody? It's your boy MC from MCTV. I wouldn't be surprised if Canelo Alvarez is on steroids right now as we speak and is going to be fully juiced with something that hasn't even hit the market yet. Think about it. He's pretty much a billionaire. He has access to...
Floyd Mayweather has never been shy about calling out Canelo Alvarez, especially on the topic of steroids. He's repeatedly said that the boxing world is too afraid to address it. According to Floyd, there's a double standard in the sport. Some fighters get a pass, while others are scrutinized. Canelo, in his view, falls into that protected category. Mayweather argues that promoters and broadcasters don't want to question Canelo because of his marketability. But Floyd isn't backing down. For him, PED use isn't just cheating, it's a threat to the integrity of boxing itself.
But what we don't talk about is, Canelo. Steroids. They don't talk about that. So we don't know. We really don't know all the fighters he beat. He could have been not clean in a lot of fights.
In the build-up to Canelo versus Crawford, the accusations haven't only come from experts. Fans have joined the war of words too. Supporters from both camps are firing off PED accusations like punches. Crawford's fans question Canelo's sudden increase in size and punching power, while Canelo's base doubts Crawford's endurance and transformation at a higher weight class. The tension has escalated to the point that both fighters agreed to undergo thorough PED testing leading up to the bout. And these tests aren't just formalities, they're a public reassurance. The fact that both sides felt compelled to prove their cleanliness says a lot about the growing distrust in boxing today. In an era where fans are more vocal and informed than ever, transparency isn't optional, it's demanded.
Canelo and Crawford are strictly and consistently doing random data testing in order to silence each other's fanbase and their critics ahead of their showdown this September. Now, despite this being a normal thing, the gravity of this fight brings in more attention to their test results, partly due to the fact that suspicion regarding both men have been up as of lately. Namely, Crawford's sudden bulk and jump to 168 and his close relationship with Snack and Victor Conti, and of course the recent PED scandals being associated with Team Canelo, as well as him once testing positive for clenbuterol 7 years ago due to contaminated meat. With that said, both men have been doing random testing since June and will undergo strict and consistent random tests up until they finally meet next month. Now, it's worth remembering that despite all the recent allegations for Canelo and Crawford, both fighters have been
Canelo Alvarez didn't always look like the powerhouse we see today. Early in his career, he was smaller, quicker, and fought like a natural welterweight. But over the years, his physical transformation has been nothing short of dramatic. Now, he's not just matching bigger opponents, he's dominating them. That shift has sparked intense speculation about how he's been able to bulk up so effectively, especially given his age and the wear and tear of professional boxing. While some credit elite training, cutting-edge nutrition, and dedication, others remain skeptical, asking whether this level of physical evolution is even possible without outside help.
But I think you gotta lean more towards Canelo, because like I said before, he been putting big guys out and down, and Canelo not even really a 68 pounder. He probably really should be at 60 maybe, and he been hurting these guys. I think he be dropping these guys and things like that. So, and them guys be way bigger than him come fight night. I know that for sure. They be probably close to 200 pounds, and he dropping those guys like that. So, I don't know. It's gonna be a great fight. The fans want to see it. So, so be it. I think Crawford should take a warm-up fight. At like 60, or like at least at 60, just to get his body, the feeling of somebody a little bit bigger, and things like that. I know when you go up a weight, you gotta, develop that power and not develop the power, but like put that muscle on and be heavier and things like that. So he might not want to take a fight because he's trying to build up right now. But I think he should, just to stay sharp and that way he don't have like a long layoff or anything like that.
Nico Ali Walsh, rising boxing star and grandson of Muhammad Ali, weighed in with his thoughts on Crawford's preparation for facing someone as big and explosive as Canelo. Walsh pointed out that Crawford isn't walking blindly into a size mismatch. He's preparing for it with surgical precision. According to Walsh, Crawford has been sparring with significantly larger fighters to simulate the power and pressure that Canelo brings. He calls this approach not only brave, but strategic. Walsh believes that greatness comes from turning risks into calculated opportunities, and that's exactly what Crawford is doing. His camp isn't guessing, they're building a blueprint.
People with Canelo before Canelo's last fight, but then after Canelo's last fight, it seems like it's more 50-50 now. So everything is just the build up for that fight is just going to be absolutely magnetizing. Like that fight, it's garnered so much more buzz after Canelo's last fight, and Bud is Bud. He's one of the greatest fighters in boxing history. He is one of the greatest fighters in boxing history. So it's going to be a fight. It's going to be awesome to watch.
Have you sparred any of them?
I haven't sparred Bud yet. I haven't been in Canelo's camp. I've met Canelo a few times. I love Canelo's team. Canelo's one of my favorite fighters. He's been my favorite fighter for the longest time. But I have to be Team Bud because me and Bud are cool, and I have so much belief in Bud, and I know who he is as a fighter. He is one of the greats. So he could do anything he wants.
And being around both of them and seeing how they work and train and things like that, what makes both of them the fighters they are, in your opinion?
I've watched Bud, so for Bud in particular, he's calm in everything he does, and that kind of calm is scary to watch because it shows experience. You can see that he's been doing this for decades. you can see it with his shadow boxing. You can see it.
Veteran boxing journalist Dan Rafael gave perhaps the clearest reason why Crawford is stepping into this high-risk fight. For Crawford, it's not about money, it's about making history. Rafael says Crawford doesn't just want to be a champion, he wants to be a legend, the kind that people talk about for generations. And to get there, he's willing to fight the biggest, strongest name in the game. But Rafael also warns that this isn't just a test of skill. To beat Canelo, Crawford has to be nearly perfect. One mistake, one misstep, and the whole game plan could collapse. Crawford isn't chasing safety. He's chasing immortality.
I think Terence Crawford is a marvelous boxer, arguably the best in the world, pound for pound. But can you hurt Canelo? If you can't hurt him, I have no doubt he can outbox him. My issue is, if you can't hurt him, what kind of a challenge can you truly pose? What do you say to that?
No, that's a great point. I mean, here's the thing. Canelo Alvarez has a historically great chin. Now, I go way back when he first came to the United States and started boxing, and he found himself on an HBO pay-per-view undercard years and years ago, fighting against the older brother of the great Miguel Cotto. His name was Jose Miguel Cotto, and he had gotten a ton of hype. He had signed with Golden Boy Promotions, and a lot of those of us in the media. And I had seen him a couple of times before that. This is my first time seeing him in person, really paying close attention. And he almost got knocked out in the first round. And I remember Stephen A., all of us looking around at Media Row going, what the heck is this all hyped about? This man can't take a shot. He's going to get drilled. He was lucky that the fight was over, that the round was over in round one, or there might have been some much more trouble. Stephen A., that was 16, 17 years ago. I've never seen him wobbled, rocked, physically, visibly hurt since then. He has an all-time great chin going in the ring with tremendous punchers. Terence Crawford coming up 2 weight classes, do any damage. Yeah, he's a slick boxer, and he's also a good puncher in the welterweight division, in the junior welterweight division, in the lightweight division. But even at junior middleweight, which is where Terence Crawford had his most recent fight back in August, when he moved up and he won a world title, he didn't blow the doors off. He fought a very tough, solid opponent named Israel Madrimov. He gave him a good fight. It was very close. Madrimov's people seem to think he might have even been able to edge it out. But if you can't hurt an Israel Madrimov at 154, what the heck are you going to do with Canelo Alvarez, the sturdiest guy in the world, at 168? So that aspect of it is certainly a problem. You mentioned about Charlo. Charlo was there to get his check. I know one thing about Terence Crawford. He's not going to just come to turn up to get the check. He'll at least try. And Charlo, I don't think, really tried.
What makes Terence Crawford so dangerous isn't brute strength. It's his ability to control a fight without it. Crawford doesn't overpower his opponents. He outsmarts them. He breaks them down with timing, technique, and elite ring IQ. Whether he fights orthodox or switches to southpaw, he controls the tempo and forces opponents to adjust to him. Against a fighter like Canelo, who thrives on pressure and power, Crawford's versatility becomes his biggest weapon. While Canelo might have the edge in raw strength, Crawford's mastery of distance and movement can neutralize that. His goal will be to avoid unnecessary exchanges and pick Canelo apart with precision. And that kind of adaptability, it's something Canelo has historically struggled with.
Somebody whose style is based around being the bigger guy, being the stronger guy. But Crawford is a very cerebral, very technical boxer, and I think that's why I'd never really considered this before. But also, I didn't actually realize until I sat down properly and thought about this, just how much weight Crawford has been piling on when he gets into the ring after the weigh-in. And look, these are not numbers that are out of the ordinary, but he's obviously cutting himself down so much in camp from whatever his walking around weight is. And it must be muscle that he's taking off. And perhaps that's why he's only fighting once a year, because there will be some fat, of course there will be, but the dude is not overweight. The dude still looks pretty ripped from what I've seen when he's not in training camp. However, there's not that many photos of him with his top off when he's not actually in training camp. So it's really hard to tell what his body composition is when he's walking around at these big weights. But the fact is, his fight night weight was 169 let's just call it 170 pounds, which is huge, absolutely huge for a 154 pounder. Especially, it's just shocked me that he's come up from 135 and now he's still putting on that much weight. He's rehydrating that much at 154. And indeed, to bring us even closer to the modern day, the thing that was posted, and again, this is the second time we've seen this, is why I'm kind of thinking there's a bit of a theme here with Crawford posting his weight when he's not actually in full training camp. On February the 9th, 2025, he posted an Instagram story and he showed himself weighing 186 pounds on a gym scale. Now, that's so much bigger than I imagined Crawford would be. I never thought this guy would walk around at 186 pounds. which for anyone who needs the conversion is just over 84 kilograms. And now look, it's not an unthinkable weight for someone, but for someone who has fought as low as Crawford has, who is generally as lean and as in shape as Crawford is, that's a lot of weight.
Marcus Brown, who has trained and sparred in the same gyms as Crawford, gave insight into how Ready Bud really is. Brown dismissed any notion that Crawford is intimidated by Canelo's strength or size. He revealed that Crawford has been sparring with men who look like natural heavyweights and holding his own. Brown said Crawford doesn't just survive those sessions, he excels. He remains calm, calculated, and composed, even when absorbing big shots. This kind of mental toughness, paired with physical preparation, might be the X factor Crawford needs to weather Canelo's power and implement his game plan without flinching.